Putin Bad News. A subordinate commander explains his part in the plot to overthrow Putin. A mercenary who took part in the attempted mutiny against Vladimir Putin of Russia claims that he and his fellow fighters didn't have a clue as to what was going on. Wagner Group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin launched an insurrection and moved troops into Rostov, a city in the south, and then on to Moscow, all within a 24-hour period. Wagner fighters rarely speak to the media, but BBC Russian was able to interview a junior commander who was right in the thick of things. The pseudonymous Gleb had previously fought for the eastern Ukrainian symbol city of Bakhmut. He and his squad were resting in barracks in the Russian-occupied Luhansk region when the uprising broke out. On the morning of June 23, they were notified to meet up with other Wagner fighters who were leaving Ukraine in a column. Gleb is hesitant to reveal the name of the Wagner commander who issued the order, but the commander was following orders from Prigozhin and the Wagner Command Council. "It's a full deployment," they told him. "Let's spread out now that we've formed a column." Gleb claims that no one was briefed on the column's destination, so he was taken aback when he learned that they were withdrawing from the front. He claims that the Wagner forces met zero resistance from the Russian government as they entered the Rostov Oblast. "I didn't see any border guards," he says. "However, the police officers along the way saluted us." At the Bugaevka checkpoint, Wagner-affiliated Telegram channels later claimed that border guards had disarmed as the Wagner forces approached. These outlets disseminated a picture purportedly taken at the scene, which showed 20 or so unarmed people in stealth gear. As the troops neared Rostov-on-Don, they were given orders to encircle the city's law enforcement headquarters and seize control of the military airport. The Federal Security Service, FSB, regional offices were handed over to Gleb's squad. As they neared the structure, they saw that it appeared to be empty and locked up tight. To look for signs of life, they sent a drone into the air. After 30 minutes, the door opened and two people emerged onto the street. From what Gleb remembers, "Guys, let's make a deal," was the phrase uttered. "What's the point in trying to make a deal?" I asked. "This is our hometown. Therefore, we mutually decided to avoid contact with one another. On occasion, they emerged for a smoke break." Reporters in Rostov say that many of the city's government buildings are in a similar predicament. Wagner fighters would first surround them with drones before attempting an attack. The only people who were allowed in were the food delivery people, and no one was allowed out. Wagner leader Prigozhin was meeting with Lieutenant General Yunus Bek-Yevkarev, Russia's deputy defense minister, and Lieutenant General Vladimir Alexeyev, deputy chief of the General Staff, at the Russian Army's Southern Military District headquarters during this time. Prigozhin demanded that they turn over Valery Gerasimov, the head of the General Staff, and Sergei Shoigu, the defense minister. Another column of Wagner fighters was on the move at the same time that Prigozhin was in his meeting. Gleb confirms for the media that the founder of Wagner, a former Special Forces officer who is rarely seen in public, was the man in charge of this column. He claims that the column was on the main road leading to Voronezh and was on its way to Moscow. If Prigozhin had a plan, did Gleb know what it entailed? With an expletive in his mouth, he admits he was completely clueless. "We found out the same way you did, through Telegram." Pictures of the events in Rostov were broadcast all over the world as the day progressed. Locals and reporters alike were taken aback when they reportedly saw Wagner fighters, who are notoriously secretive, laughing and joking with locals. According to Gleb, it was the ex-cons, meaning the many inmates and convicts who were drafted into Wagner in 2016. As the saying goes, nobody told them not to, nobody cares about them. Veteran fighters like Gleb, who were hired before the conflict in Ukraine began, have a much clearer understanding of the rules. He told the BBC that in the spring, high-ups had warned them that anyone talking to the press would be nullified or killed. Several of Wagner's former combatants have confirmed this to us. On the evening of June 24, one of Gleb's superiors called and told him that he and his unit needed to return to base in Luhansk immediately. On their way back to the barracks, they checked Telegram for updates. They read that Prigozhin had been the subject of criminal charges, that the charges had been dropped, and that he was relocating to Belarus. They then learned that President Putin's spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, had decided that Wagner fighters would not be held accountable for their role in the mutiny due to their combat merits. The future of Gleb's unit is currently unknown. They have been ordered to remain in their Luhansk barracks until further notice. He claims that the pro-Russian separatist authorities in the so-called Luhansk People's Republic in eastern Ukraine are interested in hearing more about the visitors' future plans and the fate of their weapons and ammunition. If you ask Gleb why he's still working for Wagner, he'll tell you it's because his contract hasn't expired.